It is the Mr. Organic program with our special guest presenter, Diane Campbell, and the return of a popular guest on the program, Diane.
Yes, this morning in the studio we have Viki Thondley from MindBodyFood. Viki's going to bring us up to date with some of her activities that are planned for the new year, including a women's wellness forum at the City Golf Club on the 14th of March. Good morning to you, Viki.
Good morning, Diane.
People who may not have heard you for a while on the show or never heard you on the show, just tell us about MindBodyFood, how it developed, and what you've been doing over the 4 years that it's been going.
Okay, it all started from my own experience with an eating disorder. I had an eating disorder including recovery for 18 years. It was bulimia nervosa, which definitely wasn't a pleasant experience. There wasn't any help out there that I really needed to understand how my mind and body worked, and then how food and my eating, because eating is an act in itself, was actually affecting my recovery or affecting my ability to function. So out of not being able to find anybody, I decided, well, okay, I've got all these skills. I went and studied more and more and put them all together and thought, right, I'm going to take these with me and go out there and help as many people as I can.
Not wanting to draw you back to those dark days, but what was the lowest point of having bulimia?
Oh, there's a couple of memories that really pop up just even thinking about that. I remember one night I was sitting in my car. It was dark. I was alone, and I'd had a binge, and I was just in a very, very messy state, and I had no clue what I was going to do, and I didn't see any hope on the horizon. So there was a lot of there's a lot of situations like that, but I think probably the worst, particularly affecting my body, which was affecting my hormones and everything else, was the frequency of what I was doing when I was throwing up. So on an average day, I was throwing up anywhere between 5 and 7 times a day.
Ooh, that sounds pretty bad.
Yeah. I think it's an experience that's very hard for people who haven't gone through it to understand. Well, why would you do that? Why would you do that to yourself? It's not that you're purposely doing that to yourself. It's that you're so stuck in this particular mindset that you aren't good enough. That when I'm thin, when I'm this, then I can be happy. Then I can finally wear the fitted clothes. Then I can finally get a relationship or be open to having a relationship. Then I can finally do the things that I want to do with my life. But until then, I have to suffer. I have to prove that I'm good enough or worthy enough to be able to have what I want.
Now, you've been helping women and, well, people generally, but I suppose your biggest clientele would be women. And
yes.
Last year, you held a big event in Marburg. Tell us about that.
That was such a wonderful experience. It was something that I always wanted to put together. We gathered together. We had 18 ladies that had booked to come to this event. They were all different age groups. So we had young women in their 20s. We had our eldest were a pair of sisters actually in their 60s. So we had quite a variety of age group, varying backgrounds as well. But the wonderful thing was actually seeing them all come together on that first night and seeing them start to let down their defences and share their stories and listen to each other and really start to develop this lovely support system over the 4 days where they started to come together and help each other. And just watching that and being a part of it, I realised that there really is so many women, not just in our region, but all over the world that are fulfilling roles and expectations, whether they're societal, whether they're self-expectations, family obligations. They're fulfilling all these other roles that they often forget, who am I? And what do I need? Which is a really, really powerful question. What do I need? So just watching those ladies, it made me realise, look, I could repeat that event this year, or I could make a full day of wellness available to more women throughout the region that otherwise would not have the opportunity to have that information, to gather that support, and to learn a new way of living in their mind and their body.
Before we talk about the event coming up in March, can you just tell me, where were these women, the 18 who attended last year, where were they from? Like what geographical areas?
Yeah, we actually had a couple of ladies travelling up from Canberra. We had lady travelling up from New South Wales. We also had a lady coming from the Sunshine Coast, and the rest of them were actually from around the Darling Downs, because that was my primary target area, because I can see that there is a gap. I can see that there is a need for more information to help women to learn to love themselves, embrace their bodies, and live a happier life within their own self, not relying upon anything external to them or what they might attain outside of themselves.
What kind of feedback did you have from that event?
We actually had some beautiful feedback. We gave everybody a feedback form on the last morning before they left, and just reading through them, I couldn't have asked for a more pleasant and heartwarming experience for running my first retreat, which is something that I wanted to do in the year I turned 40 last year. So, you know, we got some great feedback from the ladies, and everyone, of course, needs their own, you know, some people might want a little bit more time for themselves. Some people might want a little bit more group work. So, you know, apart from those little comments of feedback to improve it for next time, it was such wonderful feedback, and in how they all started to blossom into themselves and really develop that sense of support together. So much so that we actually created a Facebook page for them, and they keep in touch via that.
Oh, right. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, as I said, on the 14th of March at City Golf Club from 9 o'clock, you'll be having the Women's Wellness Forum. Can you go over the format for that day?
Yeah, sure. What my intention was to be able to put together not just a day of holistic health and wellness information, but it was to try and gather together other practitioners and professionals that are in the health and wellness and fitness industries within our area, so that they would be more accessible to the women who need to talk to them, who need to learn what's out there, what could possibly help me. So we've actually gathered together 11 local businesses, and we've got them as a part of the wellness market. So the day will start off with a full hour of access to all of these different businesses that are all very different, offering different services, so that they can get to know who is in my area, what is out there for me, what is a possible solution or assistance to me throughout my health challenge.
Who are some of those businesses?
Yeah, we've got Breathe Health Club. We've got Body Talk, we've got Pure Wellness and Pilates Studio, we've got Nourished for Life, we've got Christie's Angels, we've got Aroma Touch Massage, Nourished Health through Nutrition. So we've got everything ranging from a naturopath, personal trainer to a massage therapist, to a hypnotherapist, to a kinesiologist. We've tried to gather together a lot of different modalities in the wellness umbrella, so that we've got something different for everybody depending on what it is that they might be looking for and what they might need to help them.
And then after the first hour, where people have time to access the various organizations that are there and businesses, what happens then?
Then they're going to come on into the big room, and we're going to have our first wellness session. So there'll be 3 wellness sessions throughout the day, and that'll be in between, of course, the wellness market, the morning tea, the lunch, and then a food demonstration in the afternoon, just to help you understand how quick and easy it is to get some real nutrients into your body to help boost your energy and vitality throughout the day. And then some access as well after the whole thing's over, if people need to stay back and ask questions or talk.
So the first wellness session, how long does that go for, and who's going to present that?
I'll be presenting the first one. I'll be presenting most of them for the first day, although we do have a guest speaker coming along, which I'll tell you about shortly. But the focus for the first day is going to be on stress eating or overeating, binge eating, boredom eating, all the other types of ways of eating, and our weight, because it's so essential to understand how your mind and body work, and then how food and stress impact how well your mind and body work.
Nutrient absorption is one of the things you're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
So we're eating, but we're not getting the nutrients that are in the food, or are we eating food that's nutrient poor?
Well, it could be either. But even if you are eating the most nutritious, organic, beautiful, nutrient-dense whole food in the world, even if you are eating that food, but you are not present to your meal, you're eating under anxiety or anger or stress, you are eating on the run, you're eating at your desk, you're trying to eat as you are doing other things, multitasking, then all of those activities, all of that stuff that's going on up in your head is detracting you and distracting you from what you are supposed to be doing, which is eating and enjoying the pleasure of eating. How much do you eat that is pleasurable to you, that you're actually aware of, Diane?
Oh, I'd say 80%.
That's great.
Yeah. But, just talking about that, Viki, I will never forget one time, and that was here in Toowoomba.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. I mean, you often see people walking down the street. They might have a drink in their hand with a straw.
Yeah.
They might be licking an ice cream. But this person actually had a container, and they were using a fork as they were walking. You don't see that too often, thank goodness.
But they wouldn't have actually been tasting their meal.
No.
Maybe they wouldn't have actually noticed the colours of the meal or the texture. They wouldn't have really got that satisfaction on a cellular level, as well as, in the brain chemistry, that they enjoyed the meal and it was pleasurable to them. Because we often forget that eating is an act of fulfilling hunger. And hunger is actually a natural sensation from the body to remind us to eat. But often we will ignore our hunger because we think we're too busy to nourish ourselves. We don't have time to nourish ourselves. So it gets to the point where it's so intense that we'll grab anything on the run, and usually it's the quick fix, convenient meals of fat, sugar and salt combination because it's nice and tasty and it'll at least give the brain what it needs for the moment, and the brain will register some pleasure. But as we know, that food will escalate our blood sugar and insulin levels, very quickly move back down. And the brain then is thinking, hang on a minute, I'm still hungry and I want a little bit more of what just made me feel quite good. So give me more, give me more. So then we go and we have more, and we don't actually sit and enjoy and savour that meal because we are so rushed and stressed and in a hurry. So we don't make that a priority, and that's what is really getting in the way of the body and brain communicating. So it's called mind-body nutrition, which really takes into account our digestion, our assimilation, and our calorie burning of a meal.
Just one other example that I want to give you, and there's no question about the quality of the food on this occasion, but the delivery method, I think, is a little suspect. And you may have seen this. I haven't. I have. Here in Toowoomba again, a woman walking along over at Clifford Gardens, nursing, breastfeeding a baby. Great environment to be moving, trying to do your shopping and breastfeeding at the same time.
Well, again, I think it's an indication of how much we're trying to do at once. And women are always trying to multitask and juggle and do everything for everybody else, that their own needs become secondary. So we forget how to nourish ourselves, not just in food, but in so many other different ways, which is encompassing of holistic health and wellness, of really learning to nourish ourselves. We have different kinds of cravings. We don't just have food cravings, nutritional cravings. We also have bacterial cravings. We also have chemical cravings. We also have desires and needs and fulfillments within our emotional cravings. And we often don't look at, what do I really want at the moment? What am I lacking? To be able to then fulfill that need instead of try and fulfill it with food, which is temporary.
How much time should a person set aside for a meal?
Well, you remember the old saying that it takes about 20 minutes for your tummy to tell your brain that you've had enough? It's fairly accurate. It could be different for everybody. No, when we're not computers, we don't know exactly how long it's going to take. But it generally will take around about 20 minutes for our stomach to register the distension, the fullness of the meal, and also to register the nutrients in the meal, to then be able to send that hormonal signal to the brain and say, thank you, I've had some food, I'm all good now. Now, that's very well and good that you've eaten, but how many people do you know that have eaten their entire meal, their entire plate, within 2 minutes?
Well, I wouldn't say two, but yeah, very quickly.
I have a couple of people in my household that can wolf down some food very, very quickly, and then immediately after they've finished the plate, I'm still hungry. Well, of course you're still hungry. Your body hasn't had enough time to be able to tell your brain that you've actually eaten. And because it's been eaten so quickly, there is no taste, satisfaction or aroma or visual stimulation of a meal before it actually reached the mouth. And that's a very, very important stage of digestion. And a lot of people don't know this. It's such a little known fact, which is something I love to educate people on, that we will be talking about on the actual Wellness Day. But there is such a thing as the cephalic phase digestive response. Have you ever heard of that?
I have to say I have not.
Okay, so cephalic phase digestive response is the head phase of digestion. So cephalic is of the head, and it starts with that visual stimulation of taking in the colours, the textures, the aromas, and the whole look of the meal before we actually put it into our mouth. Because what that does is, when we're looking at that meal, we're looking at how good it looks. We're appreciating that we have this beautiful meal in front of us, and that we're very soon going to be able to satiate our hunger. Then it stimulates the digestive enzymes and juices in our stomach, preparing for that meal. So that's actually, scientists estimate that the cephalic phase digestive response is responsible for approximately anywhere between 40 and 60% of our digestive, assimilative, and calorie burning functions in the body.
Right. So
that's a lot.
Well, it is. So it's very important, obviously, to appreciate what you're eating before you start shoveling it in your mouth.
Absolutely, because if you don't, you're missing the messages. And that's essentially why we eat, because we need food for fuel and for information for the cells in the body to be able to do all of the chemical reactions and functions that it needs to do. But if we don't get those messages, then we don't register the taste, the satisfaction, the pleasure, aroma, and we don't register that we have eaten. The brain might think, well, hang on a minute, I think I remember eating that meal. I don't know if I enjoyed it, and I didn't get any pleasure from it, so I want more. And that's where we get stuck in thinking we've got no willpower, because suddenly we think, oh, well, we've eaten plenty of food, but I'm still hungry. And that chocolate cake, or those Tim Tams, or that Mars bar, or whatever it might be, that's looking pretty good right now. And the more you think about it, the more you're giving that message to your brain, the more that your brain is aware of no pleasure from the meal that it's just eaten, the more the brain is going to have what it wants. So it's not about willpower. Please stop beating yourself up thinking that you have no willpower, especially if you're dieting, which is a horrible word and a way to go about long-term sustainable, weight. But your brain, your head brain, will always win out over any amount of willpower that you have. Your willpower will last so long, but your brain will override any of that, and it will have what it wants.
Now, pardon me, you have a speaker as well as yourself for the Women's Wellness Day.
Yes.
And that is Tanya Hennessy.
Yes,
What's
it
her
is.
story?
Oh, well, I can't tell you her story. That's up to her to tell her story.
No.
But when I met her and we had a conversation about, the roles in media, the roles in the public eye, and the expectations of what you might look like, behind the mic, what you might look like behind, the role that you're fulfilling, there's a lot of expectation, there's a lot of judgment. And, we're only women. So we all have our own struggles and journeys to go through in becoming comfortable with our own bodies, and Tanya's no different. So she's going to be talking about her experience with eating and her weight and her stress around that. So that's a story to share with the women who are going to be coming, so that we can let them know they're not alone. No matter what you do for a living, we're not immune to that relationship with our bodies and trying to get comfortable in them.
Will you have any meditation during the day? Because I know you do run meditation courses.
Yes. I do plan on doing some relaxation exercises, because a little known fact that you can actually get yourself into a nice physiologic relaxation state in under a minute. And you can do that simply by using your breath. So using nice deep belly breathing, so that's diaphragmatic breathing, really breathing down into the lower lungs, relaxing the shoulders and the upper chest, which is shallow breathing, which many people do without even realizing. Just being consciously aware of breathing deep down into the belly, expanding the belly and the rib cage all 360 degrees around the center of your body, and just taking 5 to 6 slow, deep and even breaths. That can actually reset you and trick your brain into a physiologic relaxation response, which is the most optimum state to be in to be able to effectively increase your digestion, your assimilation and your calorie burning of your meal.
So that 1 minute meditation that you just mentioned with the deep breathing, should we do that before we eat?
Absolutely, absolutely. Particularly if you are in a rush, if you're not really paying attention to your meal, or if you know that you have a tendency to not prioritize self-nourishment at meal times. If you get your meal, you put it in front of you, you just take a moment, doing a like a 2-in-1 here, sitting and really taking in the visual stimulation of the meal, the aroma and that satisfaction of the colours and textures while you are deep breathing is going to help stimulate your digestive juices, but it's also going to help put you into a relaxation response so that after 5 or 6 deep breaths, you are then more present, you are in the moment, because your breath is your doorway to bring you into this moment, to become more consciously aware of what am I doing and what am I putting in my mouth.
So that's 5 or 6 deep breaths for over about a minute period.
Yeah. And you'll notice quite a difference. You'll notice that you actually are starting to smell that food and notice what it looks like and what it tastes like as you are chewing it and swallowing it.
Now, the food demonstrations that'll happen at the end of the day, tell us about those.
Well, I'm going to do a greens drink demo because it's very easy to put lots of different kinds of fruits and vegetables together, blend them up, and create yourself a beautiful nutrient-dense drink. And a lot of people these days don't really eat their vegetables. They don't get enough into them. So this is a really quick way to be able to blend them up and break them down, because the nutrients in the greens particularly are actually in the cell walls of greens. And I don't know about you, but I don't spend 6 hours like a chimpanzee chewing up my greens to be able to extract the nutrients out of them. So there is where a blender comes in very, very handy. And you can whip it all up, blend it all out, get all those nutrients into that drink, and you can easily assimilate that into the cells of your body, getting those nutrients, those vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, enzymes, right into the cells of the body to really boost your energy and give you, a bit of oomph to start your day.
I suppose anyone who's following the superfood trends would say that you'd be putting kale in that?
Oh, yeah, you can put kale in there, but you can put cucumber in there. You can put green apple. You can put, Swiss chard. You can put any kind of leafy green, lettuce or otherwise, into that drink and blend it up and drink it down.
Would that substitute, Viki, as a meal?
For some people, that might be enough to fill them up. Whether or not they're going to substitute that for a meal depends on them. I don't recommend it as a substitute, but certainly it's something to drink up alongside.
Or would it work for a morning tea or afternoon tea?
Absolutely. It would be fantastic for a morning or afternoon tea, because if you're nourishing yourself enough through breakfast and lunch, then you won't have as many cravings throughout that afternoon slump that a lot of people experience because, I got out of bed late this morning and I only had time for a coffee, so I didn't have time for breakfast. Really hungry at morning tea, so I grabbed a biscuit with another cuppa. And then lunchtime, I either didn't have time to make it and bring it or didn't have leftovers from last night, so I'm going to go through the drive-thru, I'm going to go to the canteen, I'm going to grab something really quick and easy. I'm going to eat that at my desk. So, that's an example of how easy it is to not plan ahead and be present while you're eating. It's very, very quickly to go throughout most of the day not realising that you haven't actually been present to your meal at all.
Right. Just before we wrap up, I did want to ask you about hormones and stress and their effect on our nutrient absorption.
Oh, wow. Huge, huge, huge. Stress is something that we all experience, but when we don't actually have relaxation practices in place and we're operating on a low-level chronic stress, that's day in, day out stress, the kind of stress that settles in and can really make us get ticked off at the slightest thing and make us feel rushed, because stress is cortisol is the main stress hormone. It's also called the fat-storing hormone, and there's a reason for that, because when we have too much excess cortisol in the body, it's playing around with the other hormones, and messages aren't getting where they need to be got when we are eating and knowing when we need to stop. So too much stress in the body really impairs the digestive process. I mean, you think about it, if you're running away from a lion, from, caveman days, from our instinctive survival mechanism, you don't need to be worrying about, seeing the pretty berries on the tree and grabbing them all on the way and eating them while there's a lion chasing you. In daily life, we get stressed over all kinds of different things. And that state is what we're sitting down and eating our meals. That's if we're actually sitting down to eat our meals, or if we're eating on the go. We're operating in the stress response, which is not optimum for digestion, assimilation and calorie burning. It actually impairs our digestion, and in a full-blown stress response, our digestion will actually shut down. It's about survival, and the body wants to keep us alive first and foremost before it's worrying about digesting a meal.
Well, it sounds like a tremendous day out at the City Golf Club on Saturday, the 14th of March. You've got the 3 wellness sessions. You've got the food demo at the end of the day. You've got the wellness market.
We've got a goodies bag. We've got a wellness goodies bag.
What's in that?
Oh, we've got some wonderful companies that have been donating some things to us, products to put into the bag. We've got a few local ones as well as some big ones. So we've got Wellbeing Magazine. We've got Frank Essential, which is beautiful organic skincare over in Western Australia. And this is skincare that was developed and also was used for the burns victims of the Bali bombings.
Right.
So it's gorgeous, gorgeous skincare. We've got a couple of local companies donating some product to us. We've also got some bigger ones like Tom Organic. We've also got Madam Flavour with herbal teas. So there's lots of beautiful things that are going to be in that wellness bag for everybody that comes along, and they get to take that home.
Oh, that sounds tremendous. How are your bookings going?
Bookings are going really well. So we're just hoping that this first event will reach as many people as we need to be able to sustain doing them. And then we intend to do different themes, wellness days for the rest of the year. So things like depression, anxiety and natural relaxation techniques. And then looking at also food allergies and inflammation in the body and ways to actually help that process to heal.
And how can people book if they want to attend?
The best way is to either contact me directly through Viki, V-I-K-I, at mindbodyfood.net, or you can also go to the website, mindbodyfood.net, and look underneath the event tab, and you'll see the Women's Wellness Talks there. You can book directly from the website.
Thank you for joining